I'm excited to tell some naughty stories today. I think our audience needs some naughty stories. You
Oh my
know,
gosh.
I was just thinking this morning about we had some fun last night, and we both
Not you and I. We didn't
no,
have any
my
fun.
my my man and I,
Right.
we've both been working a little too hard, and so I think I spoke to you last time. The text has kind of taken the back burner, which is kind of weird for us, but it made me realize the power of a quickie. That it's so important to have quickies when you don't think you have time for something, or you're so lost in something else, and you're distracted, and you're not feeling sexy. And it was like after dinner, which is not my most favorite time, but I was just sort of snuggling with him on the couch. We were both kind of
Oh.
lost in our own worlds for a while there, watching things. And then I just started to snuggle with him on the couch, and nothing, like I didn't have any intentions or anything. And he was definitely not in that frame of mind. But the more that we kind of snuggled, and I felt his big chest, and I kind of, started, I don't know, it just all of a sudden I was like, "Do you want to have sex?" And he's like, "Yes."
Has he ever said no? Just out of curiosity?
Yeah, you know him well. It's very rare. It's got to be an exceptional circumstance for him to say no. Oh gosh. But anyway, it was just fun to just have a quick one, and because it connects you so quickly to your partner.
Hmm.
We've spoken about this before, how it connects you quicker than anything else when you think about it. So, and then this morning he wanted a hand job because he was feeling like he was on a
So
roll, I think.
last night you had anal sex and then today you had a
We
hand
didn't
job?
have anal sex.
Oh, sorry. I was just making it more exciting. Your stories are usually so much more than
Oh my
we
God.
started
I don't want to
snuggling on the
disappoint the
couch.
audience, but no, that was not the kind of sex we had last night. But anyway,
So it was a snuggle and then a quickie.
yeah, snuggle and a quickie. And it kind of connected us, but it also got him thinking like, oh God, we're on a roll. I don't want to lose this. So this morning he's all like horny again. But anyway,
And did you
I gave
take
him a
care
hand.
of that? You
Yes, I
did.
gave him a hand job this morning because I'd already been
But
awake hours and I was in work mode, and
you'll give anyone a hand job.
that is not true.
No, what about the hand job story with the construction worker?
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you. Now everybody thinks that I'm and I'm really not. I'm a one man girl. And,
Right. No, you
everybody
were
thinks that I've
single at the
had way more
time.
sex in my life than I have, but I
Right.
haven't. But
Right.
anyway, yes, that guy, get this. Oh, that is
What?
so great that you bring this up, because actually one of the things I wanted to talk about today is this thing called breadcrumbing. Do you know what breadcrumbing is?
Of course I do. Hansel and Gretel drop breadcrumbs so you could follow them or they could find their way home after the Wicked Witch and the sleepy dwarfs and, something like that.
Yeah, well, not quite, but I was just reading. I was reading this article in Vogue,
Look, I'm
Vogue
the guy that
magazine.
thought water sports was water skiing. It's just a different way of saying it. I had no idea. So I don't know what breadcrumbing is either.
Well, darling, I don't think I did until I read this article yesterday. I mean, you could really, I could deduce it. But anyway, Gen Z has kind of developed this whole new, vocabulary around dating and so on that you got to keep up with. And this is one of their words that they use quite a bit. And we've all experienced this, especially in the online dating world, where, well, you'll date somebody, you'll go out maybe, and then you won't see them or hear from them, and then like all of a sudden they'll pop up out of nowhere and send you another text, or say, just say hi, how have you been, or whatever, out of the blue, and then you don't hear from them again for a bunch of times, and then they pop up out of the blue again. Well, funny you should bring up that guy, the construction worker, because he is a he is an endless breadcrumber. Not that I ever wanted anything more to do with him or anything necessarily, but he just, I didn't want to be nasty and say, just go away. So I just haven't answered his last 25 texts, because you'd think at that point someone would be like, okay, this woman clearly doesn't want to acknowledge me when I pop up once every 3 months in her
and now you can call him little reindeer. After 25 messages, it's sounding like he's stalking.
But anyway, I'm like, but it's just like he would just pop up every few months. There'd be no consistency or wooing or anything. Like these men that think that they
and he knows you're in a relationship, right?
Well, I hope he does. I mean, I'm sure that one time way back after a text, I was like, listen, I'm in a relationship, I'm not going to respond. But the thing is, he just keeps bouncing back. He's an extreme case, but you know what I mean by these people who will just pop in. I get it a lot around Thanksgiving. Christmas.
I have heard of breadcrumbing, and I do think that it is people want to feel like they have you as an option, even if you're not an option. They need to feel like it, and their way of doing that is like a little note here, a little note there, and they think that that's working to keep them, front and center in your mind.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's doing as little as humanly possible to somehow stay on someone's radar. And, unfortunately, a lot of girls kind of fall for it, especially those who are really, really, really wanting to be in a relationship. And so it's like, oh, God, there he is. Oh, yay. And so anyway, it's just something for people to be super aware of and to just say, hey, this is not my thing, like this intermittent communication. I wish you all the best.
What's your advice on that? Your advice is to ignore, or your advice is to deal with it directly? And I have a feeling you haven't seen Little Reindeer, or you would have jumped on my reference to that. But do you know what Little Reindeer is?
No, I haven't seen it. Is this a movie?
Audience, did you see how she just rolled with it, pretending like everything was cool and she knew about it and everything? No, it's one of the most popular series on Netflix. And there's this woman, and Piers Morgan interviewed her, and she was kind of weird, but she denied everything. But she's a woman that supposedly, so again, if you just watch the series, met a guy in a pub. It's an English series. And, sent him like thousands of emails and texts and phone calls, and like basically just was like total stalker. So they say it's based on truth, but she denied everything, and who knows? But it was a little freaky and a little odd. But it was very popular to watch. It's funny how society in general gets fascinated by that. I think they're fascinated by the fact that you'll give a worker construction a hand job, and they're fascinated by people that are stalkers.
You make it sound so bad. That's not how it happened.
No, I'm not making it. I'm trying to.
And I'm not going to discuss it here. It's actually the story, I believe, is on my OnlyFans page in detail. But we are not going to go into those details here.
Okay, because this is very G-rated. I'm sorry. Fuck off. I mean, I didn't realize, but I actually was trying to say that you did such a nice favor for someone. I wasn't trying to make it out that you were bad.
Oh my God. Anyway, you just want to make out that I'm a slut, which I'm not.
I'm not. I'm saying you're a kind, generous, loving woman that focuses on younger guys and is in a happy, beautiful relationship.
Well, anyway, hey, that's a good segue into this thing I just saw with Jordan Peterson yesterday, saying on Instagram something about that the optimal age between a man and a woman is 4 years, for a woman to be 4 years younger than a man. And somehow that's in our society, that's the optimal age. And I'm not sure if he was saying that as a recommendation, because I didn't see it in context of the podcast he was promoting. Or saying it in with reference to the fact that that is what the statistics bear out when you actually look at the facts. So I'm not 100% sure, but obviously I was like, what do you mean? I'm always talking about younger men and how I have really loved dating younger men in the past and how I encourage women to do it. And so anyway, it just made me think of that. And then I started writing the story of this young guy. Did I ever tell you the story of when I had new Apple products installed? I had a new computer and iPad and everything. And so the owner of the store came to my house to install everything one day. This was out in the desert, and brought his young sidekick with him who was like 25. Did I tell you the
Uh,
story with the keys?
there isn't a story you haven't told me.
Oh, so you've heard this one with the keys.
Tell me again.
It was so cute. Oh my
I love
God.
that
And
he came to install.
yeah, they came to install everything. And so, I had been through all of that stuff with my husband, all the legal stuff and the trial and everything else, which is another story, and I'm not going to get into it here. And so, my husband and I were geographically separated through weird set of circumstances. And I just was in my office and they were doing the work, and I was kind of had to participate because I had to give them codes and all sorts of things. And so it was hours that this went on as they were getting everything right and chatting with me at the same time. And the owner was asking me, because everyone had seen the story on the news and we were talking about it. Anyway, I didn't realize that during the course of all of this, that this young guy was developing this big crush on me.
Mm-hmm.
And so they left. And that night, it was like 9 o'clock or something, it was dark.
Perfect
And
timing.
he texts me and he says,
I left my keys.
yes, can I, I'm just in the neighborhood. I left the office keys and I'm going to be in such trouble with my boss and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, well, let me go and look. I'm searching in my office. I can't find them. And so he says, well, maybe I dropped them on the way to the car in the dark outside. Can I come into your, because I lived in a gated community. Can I come in there and search? And I said, sure. So I let him in. Next thing you know, there's a knock on my door and he's standing there and he says, well, I didn't find them. And I said, no, they're not here. I can't. He said, well, can I have another look inside?
Was it odd that he wasn't wearing pants, though? Did you find that odd?
So he's like, can I have another look just in case they're locked behind the cupboard or something?
In underwear drawer, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So I said, oh, sure, come on in. I mean, he was a cute young guy. He worked for a reputable company. I wasn't concerned about it. So he comes in and he looks and he says, well, I can't find them. So off we go. We're standing at my door. I'm saying goodbye to him. And he's like, you really are a beautiful woman. And I'm so taken with you. And I was like, oh, and then I'm thinking, he said, I have a confession to make. Mm-hmm. So I said to him, let me guess. You never lost the keys. And he said, no, I didn't. I've got them. I'm so sorry. But I really just needed to find a way to see you and speak to you privately. And I really want to be here for you. And just, if you need someone to just hold you, I know what you're going through with your husband. If you need someone to just hold you and be there for you, I'm there, I want to be there. It was, and he's a short guy and he's young.
I was just going to say, do you remember the only reason why you didn't let him hold you, cuddle and everything? Do you remember? It's because he was short.
That is not true. I've dated short guys. That is so not true.
What is your
now you're going to alienate all the short guys. Look, I mean, I'm a tall woman. I'm 5'9" barefoot. So
yeah.
I would prefer it if a man was taller than me, but it hasn't been a deal breaker in the past when there's been chemistry. Chemistry can sometimes be inexplicable. But anyway, he was just, look, I was, as you know, for that entire first year that I was separated, I was totally loyal. I just was so in love with my husband and so traumatized by what had happened that there's no way, I just wasn't even entertaining the idea of being with another man at all. And so anyway, it was a hard no for me for many reasons, but I didn't get mad or anything. I mean, why would I? It was an unthreatening situation, and he had conjured up some sort of a way of getting in to see me, and you got to hand it to him for his determination and innovation.
Well, and your attitude, and again, there's not been any situation where you've ever described yourself as being in fear, but you always take it as a compliment, right? Which I think is amazing, because I think some people get all high and mighty or think about it differently than you do, and you always are gracious in your letdowns and always take it as a compliment, which I think is a lesson for all of us, because you can make something turn out to be a bad day, or you can just make it part of a funny good day.
Well, yeah, and I always try to look at it from the other person's point of view. But thanks for saying that, John. I mean, it takes up a lot of courage to hit on somebody. So I always say to people, "What, you only want the good-looking hot people to hit on you, like,
Hmm.
and everybody else is scum?" Like, that's just not the way life works. It's bad karma. It's not being a nice human. And as long as I'm not in danger, and I have good spidey senses,
Hmm.
and I wouldn't, I wouldn't be smiling at some person or being sweet to them walking down the back alley in the middle of the night or something. I wouldn't
Right.
put myself in that situation.
Right.
But when you're not threatened and everything is just normal and there's people around and somebody has the courage to pay you a compliment or to try to ask you out or something, it's you got to do a nice letdown and you've got to
Yeah.
honor the courage.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I do. I know it takes a lot. I think a
Yeah.
lot of times women don't realize what it takes for a man to hit on you or to ask you out, out of the blue. And it's not easy.
No. Well, but I also think, it's not easy to be gracious about it. I don't think that comes naturally to a lot of people, especially if they're not your type or you sent no signs or indications that you wanted it. And
Yeah.
I always respect that about you, that you're always nice. I have two things that you made me think of. One is all of this is because of your wonderful South African upbringing. And we didn't have a little chat, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on my trip to South Africa, other than to say that Cape Town is still one of the most beautiful cities with some of the nicest, kindest people I've ever met in my life.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yes, I was kind
Yeah.
of jealous that you just went on that trip. That's so great.
And I plan to go back as many times as I can because the last time I went was 25 years ago, and I always thought, oh, it's such a nice place. But going back and spending time there and seeing all the beauty, and like any country, I think there's like some still political issues and stuff that happens, but that's happening everywhere. But it is stunningly beautiful. I don't think the vineyards in California can compare to what they've done outside of Cape Town and how spectacular. It's
Yeah, the
spectacularly
winery
beautiful
there.
and well thought out. Like, I mean, you can go to a winery there. There, first of all, there's hundreds of them and have amazing tastings and great wine. But then you can also go and have experiences. Like they have ones with spas and their own organic farm where you can buy all the fruits and vegetables and organic meat, and then a bakery, and then their homemade ice cream. And it's all set up like a little village, and it's just spectacular. So
Yeah.
I had to say that, and the people really are amazing. Um, Other than the people at the South African embassy in Mexico City. That's a side story. And then the other thing is, I find it very odd to think that a 4-year age gap is the perfect between a man and a woman. Because every time we talk, we always talk about a bigger age difference where women are, in their sexual prime versus a man and that sort of thing. But I was just going to mention too, I know so many couples that have an 8-year difference in their age. Like I can think
Oh.
of 6 couples off the top of my head, 8 years. So I always thought in the back of my mind, 8 years was a magic number. But I don't know if you've heard of that or thought of that, or anyone that you've heard of an 8-year thing.
No, I've never really noticed the 8-year thing at all. And look, I mean, I think it doesn't matter the age difference. People can make it work, whatever their age difference. If it's meant to work, it's going to work. People the same age split up. People with the absolute right age difference split up. There's examples for everything. So I just think people need to open their minds to date outside of their comfort zone a little bit, because
Mm.
they can miss
Experiment.
out on
Right.
so much by
Right.
protecting themselves and trying to love within the list, as it were. So yeah, I just think opening up to that. But to your point about growing, my upbringing and where I grew up, learning manners and so on. Manners is such a thing. In my course, I go into how younger men can distinguish themselves and be noticed by an older woman by having good manners and being chivalrous and doing
Yeah.
things that have become things of the past, like
Yeah.
opening the door for somebody and
Yeah.
standing aside for a woman. And even if you give up your seat on the train or whatever, or you stand up and help somebody struggling to get their bag up on the plane, or whatever you do, that's good manners or that's chivalrous. Even if that's a person that you wouldn't be interested in at all, you never know who's noticing. And besides, it's karma. It's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And I wish that our society would would go back to better manners. There's lots of progress that we've made. We've made so much progress. We're in such a great place in so many ways. But that's one thing that I feel we could really benefit from going back in time a little bit on.
Well, I think that's a great thing, though, in your course is actually giving all those tips and tricks, because I think, people don't know what they're not taught. And I think, as you're saying, we've lost a lot of the things that were expectations when we were kids. Parents don't have that expectation of their kids, therefore not teaching, therefore not creating this aha moment for someone, maybe not even the person you're doing the gesture for, but to your point, someone around seeing and thinking, oh my God, that guy is such a gentleman. Like, it's just, I think it's important. So I think that's a good part of your course and a good reminder for everyone to think that there's ways of learning that. It's not like you didn't maybe grow up with those manners. It's very easy to pick them up, right? And just stick with them.
Yeah. And just, I think also just think about another person for a moment. I think we get so, in our society, we're so caught up in what's in it for me. And to just think of the other person. I was telling you this story the other day that I was walking down the street and came upon this elderly lady getting her groceries in the car. And I immediately just said to her, "Can I help you?" And she surprised me by saying, "Yes, I would really like some help," because I think so many people are also afraid to accept help, right? And that brings me to the other thing of how you handle it when someone is not gracious, when you help them or you had good manners, and that's something to be talked about.
Can you finish the story about the woman and you helped her inside with the groceries, and then tell everyone how you were held kidnapped for 2 days afterwards?
Well, the funny thing was, I was so aware that she might think, well, okay, I need the help, but do I really want to let a stranger into my yard? Because I just thought I could leave them at the step if she, I wasn't going to impose myself on her. But I carried them all the way into her kitchen and put them on the kitchen table, only to discover that she lost her husband just a few days ago, that she's been married to for 55 years. And she said to me, "Thank you so much. I've been feeling a little overwhelmed. My husband just died last week." And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And so little did I know that there was something so much greater there. I've got goosies just thinking about it. That reaching out and helping her, I thought with the groceries, was actually just showing her that somebody cared when she needed to know that the most. And so, acts of kindness are so much more important than even we think at face value. And it is often about helping people to know that they matter. And that's such an important thing. I mean, just a little gesture goes a lot further because they feel like you cared.
Yeah. Like, I love the story, but it did make me think that, and I don't know what your thoughts are on this, that we don't do things nowadays sometimes, even if it goes against how we're brought up, because you worry about the repercussions. Like, you worry, oh, is it a crazy lady? Is she gonna bash my legs in and hold me captive for two? Like, I don't know if I'm the only one that has those thoughts, or you see someone in distress and you wonder, should you help them, but you worry that you shouldn't get involved. Like, it's a tough one, because you also read those stories where something bad happens to the person that did the helping. And so, I have a huge respect that you would do that. And I know, as I said, and wasn't joking, that I think you're a very good judge of the situation you're in, and you know what's safe and not safe. But, how do we as a society, feel okay and know that, I would love to open the door for someone who looks like they've been shot at your door, but I wouldn't, because I would be thinking that there's someone right around the corner that's going to come in with a gun and then rob me. That's where my mind goes now.
Yeah, darling, I think we protect ourselves out of life. I think it's the same thing as saying that people won't date somebody outside of their comfort zone or whatever. It's just because you're trying to protect yourself. And I think that when we think of others, um, it's important to not always just think of, oh my God, what's going to happen to me? I think to go back to that, I think in a split second, we're able to make an intuitive decision. I do. I think we have that. I think in a split second, I would have been able to, if this was an old man or a young man dressed up as an old man trying to get someone to help them so they can knock them out or whatever, maybe I wouldn't have picked up on that. But I do trust. I have a great deal of trust and faith in divine guidance. And because I believe that there is something beyond my physical self that's guiding me, I trust. And so I wouldn't stop myself from helping. And you see so many examples on like TV where they pretend. I just saw one this morning where this guy was whisking this young boy down into an alley off of the street. And so many people like looked and kept on walking. And finally, one woman like followed him into this dark tunnel without even questioning this young woman. And she wasn't like, she was just going to go and save that kid, even though it was a strong young man who had abducted him. And that's, I think, how we should all be, because I do think, yes, some people may meet with an untimely demise that way, but my spirituality and my faith tells me that that maybe that was your time to go. Like I just don't think that is a reason to not help someone.
That's a good way to think about it. I never thought about that. That if you go in with doing the right thing and something bad happens, then that was your time. But probably 95% of the time, it's like when we talk about the power of now. 99.9% of the time your mind can come up with these crazy things that will happen, and it doesn't. So
exactly, right.
I guess that's a good lesson for all of us, or a different way for me to think about it at least. Oh, and the other thing, go ahead.
Well, I think if everybody did that, we'd live in such a different world. We'd have fewer bad people anyway to begin with,
because
if we change that consciousness.
Yeah, the all-time equalizer, I have to say, is the fact that everyone has a phone. Remember Karen in the park that black man was videoing, and she called the police and then faked that he was attacking her, and then Karen became a term. But I love that people can't get away with shit now, and that they can record everyone from a police officer treating them horribly to another individual, treating them horribly. And I also think it's really interesting that people's perception is like, I was wronged and I'm videoing and I put it up, and then you go to the comments and everyone's like, well, you were kind of the asshole in this situation, which I think is so amazing. I'm like, oh, maybe they'll see that they were actually the wrong in this, even though in their mind they were totally the right,
Yeah.
So I just think it's this grand equalizer of the ability to show people, and maybe it makes people think about their behavior a little bit more than they used to.
It's funny. It's kind of a double-edged sword. I mean, there's people always saying the problem with today and technology and our phones, but no, you're right. I mean, there's so many good things, so many great things to be grateful for about this incredible technology. I was thinking the other day, I don't know how we survived without them. And the safety element of it is huge, right?
True.
You feel kind of unsafe and a little insecure when you forget your phone. It's like, oh shit, I hope nothing bad happens.
Yeah, no, it's true. Oh, and the other thing I was going to mention, and I'm not looking intelligent when I say it, is the movie with Anne Hathaway.
Oh yeah, I watched that.
Did you? So it was what I was saying is that, and you have to make a movie about that, because if it was the reverse, as we're used to in an older man dating a younger woman, that's just the norm, right? Society thinks that, especially I think if a man's created some sort of success and wealth, then right away they're going to go for a younger woman, and we as a society think that's great. Whereas in this case, Anne Hathaway plays a 44-year-old, I think, something like that, or maybe a 40-year-old.
She was just 40, yeah.
Just 40. Listen to you, just 40.
Well, she just
You're so
turned
close
40.
to 40. Yeah,
she just turned 40.
Yeah, you
18 years younger than me.
Very, like a couple of years younger than me. And then she dates a 24-year-old. Why are you laughing? Don't laugh so hard.
Yes, darling, just a couple of years younger than you. Yeah, she dates, that's right. And he's a rock pop star.
Pop star that her daughter loved
Yeah.
because that was the other little thing they kind of threw into.
You know what I loved about that movie was that most of those stories end when she says, I can't do this anymore. And I thought that was the end of it because
Hmm.
most of the like usually they don't push the narrative that it can work out and that it's got
Hmm.
legs, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And this is a spoiler alert, so if you want to watch the movie, don't listen right
I
now.
know they both died of cancer. It's
Don't
horrible.
stop it. Oh my
Sorry.
God. Don't even say something so awful. But
Okay, sorry.
anyway, they end up getting back like together 5 years later and
Right.
it being
And
that being the
five
happily ever
years?
after.
The 5 years? Because I think the other important thing that I found very interesting is they didn't break up because of her and him. They broke up because of her daughter. And I just think
Yes.
that goes to show how often parents live their lives for kids, which I actually think is great, especially when they're in school. And then at some point you have to live your life. But that was when the daughter finished school, was 5 years from the date.
Right.
So I thought that was very interesting in the writing of it, that it wasn't actually a problem with the age difference. It was a problem that her daughter was so viciously teased, because I think kids can be the most cruel around, and that's why she broke up.
Right. Yeah. It made me realize when I was rooting for them and so disappointed that they broke up and decided to end it, that they couldn't carry on. I found myself going, oh, damn, well, I feel really deflated now. And yet, in my latest book that I'm writing about this incredible power of dating that the younger men have sort of had brought into my life, that I talk a lot about the power of fleeting, of momentary love, and how beautiful it is when something can't carry on to just let it go. I think we talked about this before, but I thought, oh, here you are, Jacqueline. You're always talking about honoring, just letting it go and all of that. And yet here you are going, damn, like I want them to be together forever. And so I was totally buying into the Hollywood fairy tale ending, the happily ever
Interesting.
after. And I
Yeah.
thought that's probably what people were rooting for me in my stories as well.
Hmm.
Even though I made peace with the amazingly beautiful romantic relationships that I've had that needed to end, um, if you look at it from a story point of view, the audience would like for it to carry on, or for like everything to end in a happily ever after. And so I was so thrilled when that happened. And I thought, oh, look at you. You're just like everybody else. You want the happily ever after Hollywood ending.
Yeah, so interesting, right? That is
Yeah.
really interesting and we did talk about it on one of the last podcasts, where you have this ability to let a relationship go and know when it's done, and not have that remorseful or wallow in it, or just, what most people do, and really embrace and love the moment, and then move on. And now to hear you saying that even in a movie, you're cheering for them to like make it and last and everything, is interesting.
Yeah. And I think for me, I wasn't that great at it for the longest time, but I think when you love somebody as much as I loved my husband, and it's not able to continue, it's just it's you have to love somebody who's not there, that I learned this thing of making peace with whatever the situation is, that hanging
Hmm.
on to an idea, it's your expectations that are shattered, not so much your heart when you do that.
Hmm.
And so hanging on to an idea, or this should have, and this is another thing I talk about actually in my course when I'm helping people deal with rejection or heartbreak, is the teaching. I believe it's the teaching of the Buddha, and I'm not a religious expert or anything like this, but I understand that something along the lines of the Buddha's teaching is that pain is inevitable in life, but suffering is a choice. And that suffering comes from the belief that we ought not to be going through what we're going through, that it should be
Hmm.
different, the dreaded
Mm-hmm.
should word. And in
Mm-hmm.
fact, life does have a lot of painful moments for everybody. If you're lucky enough to live long enough to experience things, you're going to have loss, you're going to have, sometimes heartbreak, whatever. And these things are painful. There's no denying it. But we suffer unnecessarily when we go, this ought not to be happening. This is wrong that this is happening to me. Acceptance. And that's what's helped me to be able to accept. It's like the beautiful holiday romance I had in Morocco, in Marrakesh, with a surgeon from France. I mean, lived opposite ends of the world, holiday romance, everything about it. It could not continue. And I had to sort of look at it as beauty and this, I don't know, this romance of letting go. When I thought about it, it's kind of romantic that it cannot carry on. You have to look at it that way. Otherwise, you would never open your heart to temporary love. And temporary love can be so, it can change your life because it can change who you are as a person. Just any encounter with a beautiful human can cause a major shift in your life. Either you are introduced to something you never thought of before, or you learn something about yourself that changes the way you deal with people in the future. Like, all of this can come from beautiful temporary encounters that people so often are so scared to open up to because they can't deal with the end of it. And I just think, oh man, like some of those things, I wouldn't be the person I am right now and able to be good in a relationship. And I do believe I'm now good in a relationship. I know how to be in a relationship pretty successfully. And I have a wonderful person that I'm in a great committed relationship with. But I wouldn't be that had I not experienced all these things. For some reason, I needed to.
And some of the best sex of your life, probably.
Yes, exactly. And just romance. I mean, I think to look back, I was even telling him about, sometimes I've spoken about the love that I've had in the past. And he'll get tears in his eyes because he'll just go, that really is a love story. It's a love story. He realizes it and he acknowledges that I've had some incredible love stories in my life. And oh man, I feel so blessed.
Well, I think that's the healthiest way to look at it, right? Like when you're saying it, it makes me think of the power of now and being able to use, tricks that you're good at giving to, not get stuck and not wallow in something that ends, because ending isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? And it doesn't take the experience away. So all of those experiences, you have the healthiest attitude, I think, out of anyone on, taking the experiences and enjoying the experiences and having, that ability to, move on through life, which I think is great. Because I think a lot of people, to your point, exactly think, okay, well, there's no future in this, so I'm not even going to start it.
Yes.
And I think your point is like, you're missing out on so much. It may not go, like, you may be right on that. It may not have a long future, but what if you have an amazing, moment? And when I say moment, that could be days, weeks, months, whatever. But it's funny because you always make me think about life differently. And right now I'm thinking of moments in my life that, like, one dinner at one restaurant that still, has a memory and an impact. And, I could have not done that, but I did it.
Yes, absolutely. Because life really is, I've realized this, that life is the sum of our experiences. What else is it? It's not the accumulation of things. It's not the future. It's the sum of our experiences. And that is what life is in a nutshell. And it's all the moments. It's all the moments. And so to be in the moment, to enjoy the moment, instead of protecting ourselves with this armor plating, because we're so afraid to open to love, just in case it's not going to last or whatever, we're missing out on some of the most glorious moments of life. And at the end of our days, when we get to our, on our deathbed, God willing, having lived a long life, that's going to be the thing is, I lived a life. I wasn't afraid. I trusted myself that even when it got tough or hard or painful, I trusted myself that I was going to be fine. So I didn't hold back on opening my heart. Opening your heart is just so important. And so anyway, I do think that it's getting to the end of the days and going, wow, that was a wild, fun, fantastic, amazing ride.
That's what the construction guy said too.
He didn't have a ride.
I know, but he'll have moments on his deathbed where he'll remember the good times.
You are so naughty. Oh my God.
Sorry, what were you going to say before I got naughty? Which I'm not allowed
Oh,
to do,
yeah. Oh, there's a new, maybe we should talk about this next time, but there's this new documentary on Netflix about Ashley Madison.
Oh, I haven't seen it. So I would be an uneducated communicator on that.
Well, why did it go dark? Are you
You're
still there?
still the light of my life. You haven't went dark at all.
I don't know why the screen just went dark. Anyway, yeah, so let's watch
your
it.
Your phone knows to block you from talking about Ashley Madison.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. I don't know, because my
Big Brother's watching or listening. But let's watch it and talk about it next time, because I just started to watch it last night. And it's so crazy that there's this dating website back then for married people, right? And
but wasn't it a scam? Do they talk about it as being a scam? Like they said that the women were paid or whatever to go on.
When you are trying to having as many married women who want an affair as married men, I'm telling you now, you're going to have a shortage of women. There's going to be more men that sign up for something like that exponentially.
Right. I agree. Yeah. So I think they learned that it was a big scam, but they also did, in the data breach, release a lot of men's names. Well, speaking of weird concepts, so I took my Zeus, to my dog, to a cardiologist, of course. Anyway, so I'm going to this other area of the city. I'm on this main street. And, when you're sitting in an Uber, you're on your phone, you're doing it. And I'm looking out the window and I'm like, she's dressed kind of, she's dressed. Basically, it was like a line of like Hooker Street. And I'm like, I didn't think that still existed. I didn't think there were street hookers, whatever you call it, street hookers. I thought it was all moved to online. Like, I just had no idea. And so when I went into the cardiologist, to the nurse, I'm like, this is an interesting street. And she's like, the whole street, like blocks and blocks. And then I learned that in Mexico City, there's a place for they were women. I could tell they were women, but there's another street in a different area for trans hookers. I don't know what else you say.
Yeah.
And then there's a place, I think, for male gay hookers. So it was just like, oh my God. But this one was the straight during of the day, kids and families walking on the street, busy street, both sides, shops and everything, like every few feet. And I was like, wow. I didn't know it still existed.
Yeah. Wow. Great catching up on that happy hooker note.
I just thought it was a piece of trivia that everyone might be interested in.
It still exists for those who want to know.
Yeah, and they probably do quickies, like hand jobs for construction workers and stuff.
When are you going to let that go?
I know, I really should. I'm sorry, I have so much fun with these memories that I have.
Yeah. Well, anyway, darling, that was great chatting. Thank you so much. We'll chat again next week, and we'll review the Ashley Madison thing.
Okay, I'll make a note to watch it.
Yeah.